Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. We're going to bear country today. We've got bears of all sizes, shapes, and forms. But I'd like you to meet the artist that does the bears. Denise, welcome to Better Life Television.
How do you do, Bernie? Good to see you again.
What's the story about you and the bears?
I never liked making stuffed toys.
Oh.
First one was for my grandson, about 16 and a half to 17 years ago. He just turned 18.
Big kid.
And I decided to make a bear for him, and other people liked the bears. So I added a belly button so they'd all be different. Every one of them has a belly button. And over a period of 5 years or so, I decided to make most of them memory bears because every one of them holds special memories for the recipient.
Yep. This is Doug's bear and Doug's baby bear. That's my husband. He's now 76, Doug. He's behind the camera over here. And when his bear blankets were saved, and when they'd go back and forth and during the Dust Bowls, out to California, out to Oregon, they always seemed to keep his bear, his blanket.
His baby blanket, yes, yeah.
And
it was in great condition still.
Oh, sure. Except I brought even the scraps. Look at, every edge is split. He really loved that blanket. Maybe they just wore it to shreds.
Chewed it a little bit.
Baby, so, but with the scraps, with the bear, when you said that you could make you could make a bear out of his baby blanket, I said, show me how. And then you said, don't you have some buttons in the button?
That's true. Because every bear has buttons on it, and if there's special ones that are special to you, that's even better.
What about his navel?
Well, it isn't the button I would have picked to put on there, but it is a special one out of myrtle wood that had meaning in your family. And although I don't recall what the meaning was, I always tell people to send me things that are special to them for their bears.
Well, you know, I'm so excited about them. This one has a white arm and this one has a blue arm.
Double-sided blanket.
Of course.
And that's why the difference in that. You could make it different because if you flopped it over, the white side was blue on the reverse. Same with the checks are reversed.
So what I did was I said, you have returned to me the scraps. There were a few more then. And so I thought, what would I do with scraps? I said, I'd like Christmas ornaments to hang on my Christmas tree. Would you be so kind? What happened next?
Well, those were the first bear ornaments. I said, oh, I don't know, Bernie, I'll see what I can do. So I played around with it and drew, and I don't draw, but I drew bears and got out cookie cutters to look at and different things to come up with a variety of bear ornaments. And now several people have them. Not with quite the special history that Bernie's are, however, because she got the first ones and they were out of a 70-plus-year-old blanket.
And they're on Christmas tree every year. It is so much fun. What you can do with scraps.
Oh, yes.
Now that's part of why you're here, is to tell us.
Because our folk, well, we recycled before it was a buzzword. We didn't know we were recycling. We just thought we were making do, anything from saving the bent nails and straightening them, which you know you can really bang up your fingers doing that.
But boy, they are sure fun when you put together a little mirror like that. Those are real, authentic square nails. They aren't just genuine.
These are not repros. These, no.
Well, there's a word for it?
They're not reproductions. They're real ones, but they were not used. They were still nice and straight. They were in Grandpa's stuff. And rather than let it get thrown out, I hoarded it at my house.
Why don't you tell us about Grandpa? Where was he and who was he? And
Oh, this grandpa was local, wasn't my grandpa. My grandparents, one was in England and one in the U.S. because my mom's from England. So, but I gather grandparents quite willingly, and especially their good, cool stuff they have hid out because you never know what you can do with it. There.
this is grandfather who?
This was my father-in-law, John Fields, who was in the Navy in World War II, was stationed in Japan for a while, was in a bowling league, and my mother-in-law found here a couple of years ago that she did still have 4 of his shirts, and those were the only ones. It wasn't what he wore all the time, it was just the only shirts she had left.
Excuse me, but what's on his hind leg here?
Yokohama 1959-1960 International League for Bowling. So, so each of the children and her received a bear because my father-in-law's been gone almost the same amount of time that my dad has been gone, which is close around 20 years now. And my dad wore Western shirts much of the time, so there were a few left.
Oh, he's even got a Western bow
Yes. So each of my sisters and I and my mom have one with the top out of a Western shirt and the legs out of blue jeans because that's what he wore all the time.
The cowboy needs good jeans.
That's
to
right.
Ride that horse along the line. Well, now, history, oh, even this pocket, that's the real pocket off his shirt?
Oh, yes, and that's the way I always make them. If there is a pocket on the shirt, for instance, this one here has a pocket.
Which is a real pocket.
Which is yes, I don't add the pockets, except one time I've added a pocket for a lady because the garment had no pocket.
Well, now,
in there.
folks, you can see why I am so thrilled with recycling. And to find
Recycled
somebody...
buttons, too.
Recycled buttons.
Absolutely.
Well, I went over to the Dorcas Society, or it's also called one day, and they had a half a gallon, big jar anyhow, of plastic jar full of buttons. And I said, oh, could I? Oh, sure, just take a handful or two. So some of your buttons came from right here on this property.
Yes.
You've got so many things. I hardly know. Oh, look at that. An original belly button bear. And the reason for belly buttons is?
It sounded cute, and everything has a belly button, so all of my bears have a belly button. If it's for a child, I will stitch it instead of putting a button so there's no button for them to swallow. Oh. Usually they're not toys, but a few have been ordered that way, and then they don't get a true button because if the parents request not to have a button in there. Well, but most of them do, and most of them are going to, set on a shelf. It keeps the clothes out of the closet and where they can give them a hug whenever they need a hug.
Oh, yes.
In there, so.
Denise, where did we get acquainted with you? That's an interesting story because my husband came raving about you.
Well, several years ago, Doug and I met at a meeting in Rogue River. It was a telecommunications meeting, and I was there as a stealth business representative, which means a home business that does not make a footprint exactly on the local community. Nobody knows you're there necessarily. More people across the country knew about my bears and the other home businesses I'm in than they did in Rogue River area. So I was asked to come as a representative of that, and then later also became the school district representative. Doug was there with some other folks from Josephine County to see what we were up to, and it was one of those deals that started out with, I don't know, 30 to 50 people in there and dwindled down to kind of a dozen, you know how that goes.
You are from Jackson County, right?
Yes, absolutely. I live in Weimar.
And what's the history about Weimar?
Well, there used to be a family there with that name. They used to have their own post office. The remnants of the old safe sits at the end of a driveway with a little sign on it down the road from us. But they haven't in a long time. You can still mail things to Weimar and it will eventually find us.
But years and years ago, it was significant.
Yes. There were 6 small schools out there long ago. 1923, they, after much feuding, put it together in one school, which they built at a cost of about $10,000 at the time. That's where I've been privileged to work the last 21 years and before then with my kids.
Well, now, you mean your kids went to that school?
Yes.
When did you move there?
In 1975 from Grants Pass.
Oh, you had really a lot of history, and then you decided to go pioneering?
Oh, no. All the pioneering was all done when I was a little child, when my folks, after World War II, moved to Alaska.
Oh, I hope your mom will be on to tell us all about what it was like to raise a family in Alaska. This is post-war?
Yes, they met during World War II. My dad was from Oregon, and my mom's from England. They were both in the service. She's a veteran also in there. So they met working at a radar station, basically.
Where?
In England. And she knows all the details to that. Even though I have edited the book, I'm bad about quoting the names and places.
Well, when you say edited the book, how did you get into book editing?
When I was still in high school, and we're talking a long time ago now, you do realize this, that I was going to be an archaeologist and a journalist.
Okay, not a seamstress.
No, I just did that because we all grew up doing that. That's just what we did for fun, kind of, and if we wanted clothes, kind of, you know. We all learned to sew because our mom sewed all of our clothes. She made the shirt that my dad's bear is made out of. Oh. So she always sewed, so we did. We didn't think about that as a job. That was different in there. But I did go on to journalism. I ran my own newspaper for almost a year in Arizona, a weekly paper. That was one of those previous lifetimes.
Oh my goodness.
So you didn't know about that piece.
No.
And that's why later I do the school paper and things like that, but it just became a natural to work on doing the editing and so on for the books.
You mentioned your school. What can you tell me about its history, other than it was...
1923 is when they built it, and they buried the hatchet literally in a little hole in the wall, which on the 70th anniversary we located that, and then we had to tuck it away in a safe place. But there were 6 small schools there, and after much discussion of the local, leaders in the community, they agreed to put up one school where all of them would go. In later years, they had big feuds with the Rogue River, and eventually were combined with Rogue River School District, and that was, I think, in the 60s.
Well, now, the reason that these feuds went on was because
people wanted their own local schools. There's one of them that the school is still there, the Bybee Springs one. It's not used as a school, but the building is there. But nobody wanted to go very far away. There used to be one on Pine Grove that the pigs played under. I've read this in the history of the school.
During school they played under?
Apparently, yes. Apparently it was quite the deal if the kids got to playing with the pigs, or there was something about that, But each little community wanted their kids to not have to go very far to school, and that's why they didn't want to join into a bigger school.
Sounds a little like Little House on the Prairie, or...
I think it may have been very similar to that at the time, because, they had wagon roads and so on, and a lot of the settlers out there have been there for a long time.
And you happen to live in an area that gets more snow. And
sometimes, yes. And
more snow?
Yes. In fact, one day when you were going to come out to visit me, we canceled it because I think we canceled school that day entirely due to snow, and you were coming out either to pick up the ornaments or something like that, and said, sorry, Bernie, the road is a mess. The hill to the school is a mess. We're not doing it.
Well, the Wagners, my friends that were pioneers of Better Life Television, they live up at the end of the pavement on one of those roads, and they make their own power and things like that, so they wouldn't be out of the loop in such storms.
Right.
But some people are out without power for days.
Oh, yes. We even have power blips in the summer with no reason why.
This is, you've gone a little far with some of your projects. You've gone online. I can't even imagine, how'd you get started? I mean, not in a catalog or anything like that.
Catalogs are expensive, just like
have to
printing
mail 'em.
books. That's why now we print and bind our own on a as-ordered basis instead of having them printed. We're cheapskates.
Frugal women.
Frugal women who were trained to be entrepreneurs and recyclers before it was the popular thing to do. One of my most favorite outfits was made out of flour sacking.
Real flour sacks?
Yes, we used to beg our dad to please try to find another one with just these little purple flowers on it. You can imagine how well that went over.
Oh, so Dad had to...
Because he's the one who went to town to do the shopping by boat. And I know he thought, they want me to look for a flour sack with purple flowers on it. Right.
But you wanted a whole dress, not just one half.
There you go. Exactly.
Now, are these the girls?
Yes, that's my sisters and I. There are four of us. Myself in the back, my sister Nancy, who's the number 3 sister. The one down here is Ruthie, the little sister, and then that's Linda, the second sister. We're spaced out like 3 years apart. So.
And you're all entrepreneurs?
We are, and we have a real problem. Whenever we get together, we keep coming up with new ideas. And sometimes that can be a problem
Now,
because we all work full-time.
Oh, okay.
In addition.
In addition, now is this one of the projects?
That's one of our projects, and it's also a picture of the homestead where we were as young children, and a fairly good snowfall.
You bet. You bet. Let's talk a little bit about buttons.
Okay.
And what's the history of buttons, and why most of us have one of these button boxes that kids get out and play with?
Well, for one thing, you can make a simple button toy with a good-sized button. You can use them to decorate anything, or you can just play with them. They're fun to play with. If you put a box of buttons, and I've tried this at work, out on the counter, everybody, men, women, and children, no exceptions, that come through, they will start playing with the buttons.
And what do you think they're doing or saying, or?
They'll find ones that match. They'll say, oh, I remember my mom had buttons like this, or those look like the ones off of my favorite coat when I was a child. Just the gamut, and even big, logger types, so to speak. They'll come in, they'll play with the buttons without fail.
Now, do you have some that are real valuable? I mean, my Myrtle
They
would-
are to me, but I have no idea whether any of them are truly valuable. There are people that collect vintage buttons.
I guess we could go online. Doesn't that sound funny? You could use computers, you can use email for old-fashioned, that suitcase is so old, I can
It
almost
is.
see the Greyhound bus tag on it.
It's amazing that it doesn't have tags on it, but it doesn't, and I rescued it from somebody that was going to dispose of it.
Oh,
in there.
what a
Do you want to
shame.
look in it?
Oh, please. In Sacramento Airport, and it's worth a trip just to the airport just to see it, they've stacked antique suitcases like this, one on top of another on a luggage carrier, and they are gorgeous art
wow, neat.
objects. I mean, they must go up 10, 12 feet.
Oh, wow.
So stop at the airport and check that out. But this one, oh, look at that. What's the story of ducks and geese and pigs and...
Well, one of my sisters, Linda, has a much larger fabric collection than I have. She could fill this room. And she has a lot of country fabric, and she made just this little primitive cow for somebody, and they were kind of cute, so she made some more so we would have them when we have a sale, an actual presence, or to have online. So she just drew her pattern, made a few, and kids find them fun because they're just, yeah, just fun.
This can fly. I just showed you. Now, oh my, look inside the suitcase. It's a terrible mess, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's wallpapered? Do you suppose they put that in special?
I think it came this way because it matches neatly. And here it lays over the top of it, even though other places it seems to be missing. So I think it's the original paper.
Okay, and out of there came all kinds of things, including, now these look very primitive. If you ask me, I think I could make one like this.
You probably
but
could.
I don't have the wood vintage salvage pile.
Absolutely. These come from a variety of places. Old pallet boards. Some of the boards are from a remodel we did at the school, so they're well over 80 years old.
Aha.
And it was going out in the junk pile, and I said, no, I want those boards. So we've made them special for people that wanted to frame needlepoint, and some custom ones that have gone as far as Maryland.
Folks, don't throw it away if you think that she might be interested to teach you how to do it, because this is all about...
It's just a little imagination and a little math.
Math?
Math.
How?
You have to measure the things right to get them lapped right, or it just doesn't work.
Okay, well, that's why you're at school, huh? Now,
And that's why I tell the kids, you have to learn your math as well as your reading, because you never know what you're going to need it for.
this is really quite irregular, so that's part of the fun of it, isn't it?
That is. They're not supposed to be like a high-class frame that you would get downtown.
Or
These
at
are made out
Walmart.
of, correct, these are made out of recycled things. So much of our products are made out of recycled. Except,
Yeah,
yes,
Grandpa's shirt.
absolutely. I mean, all of my bears, it's
Doug's-
very rare if one is made out of brand new fabric.
Doug's baby blanket. I did hear a very sensitive story, from you, about a baby that never got to go home from the hospital.
That's correct. And
Tell us about that.
the mom wrote me and asked if I could do a bear, and she said, I don't have any clothes. He was 7 months old. He was in neonatal from the time he was born. But I have blankets. And I told her, I've done baby blankets. The blankets were over 70 years old. And so she sent me 3 blankets. She saw pictures. She sent me the blankets to make a bear for her. And there.
And it's okay that, now she has at least that
Yes.
positive memory,
Yes.
that love
Yes.
that she never got to take home. Yeah, I'm very sensitive. I'm a history lover. I am so thrilled with what you do here. It just breaks my heart to see a beautiful piece of furniture like we have right behind. Learn today that one of you viewers watching recognized this piece of furniture as being an antique piece. And here it was just salvaged from somebody said, the quilts that we have here on the wall, fabric that I guess Grandma and Grandpa would wear out the back of his shirt first, right?
Probably a good chance, and then you'd have pieces left to use. They tell a story.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, any quilt or a bear or whatever that are made like these, they tell a story to the people that cared about the pieces in them, either from a picture story or recognizing the fabrics or, again, the buttons. And it brings back memories, and we hope that they're good or that they're healing memories. And people cry when they get the bears. It's often they cry,
Doug,
but
did
it's
you
okay
cry when you
crying.
it says Doug the bear, an old friend who will last a lifetime. And when he saw that I'd bagged him up to bring to TV, he said, "My bears are going." I said, "Yes, they're going on TV today." And
Just traveling and visiting, and then they'll go home again, right?
and he's here filming, so he can just take them home
To make sure that they're safe.
I just thank you so much for coming. You've got a story about a favorite bear. What can you tell me? There's one that stands out above all else.
Well, my favorite bear will always be one that I didn't make at all. And that's because I've had panda bears since I can remember. And I still have my panda bear, and he still looks basically black and white. And the grandchildren knew that they were only to look and not touch because he might disintegrate. But it was that love of bears that made me want to make bears, because everybody loves bears.
As Doug says,
So
nobody's going to throw away a cute bear.
That's so right, and that's what a
You're
lot
a
of
genius.
people feel.
You're a genius.
Well, I
You
don't
taught
know
us-
about that, but I love making bears, Bernie.
You taught us something about recycling and the way, and to love it, pass it on to a next generation. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, waving goodbye for Journeys and Journals. It's my pleasure to show you things out of history. And this is a beautiful bit of I Remember When. Thank you so much.